one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phil's Place. Happy Monday morning. Even though we're not going live, it's Monday morning, 9 a.m. And I have you're never a former colleague. You're a colleague forever. We got Mr. Darryl Jones, who I first met over 30 years ago when I was a newbie in the admissions field. I was sent to Gettysburg College to go to some presentations. And the first person who I saw present was this gentleman right here. And it had such an impact on me that it still has an impact on me that I knew that Darryl was the man and still is the man. And we both have since left higher education. We're gone 3 years plus now, 3.5 years. We've been friends on Facebook. We used to do college fairs together, all that kind of stuff. And you struck a positive chord on me last week when you talked about your schedule after retirement. Okay. Now, obviously, we'll get into the keyboards behind you, the music that you're doing. We're going to get into all the volunteer work that you're doing. We're going to get into, what your passions are and everything like that, and how it relates to culture. But first, we do want to talk about, this is a time of year when seniors are starting to scramble is the right word?
It's scrambling.
It's scrambling. And because by now, unless they're waiting for their decision letter to come on April 1st by
Yeah.
various institutions they've applied to, we have the majority of students who already have acceptance letters. And Darryl, what is their first job after they receive 3, 4, 5 acceptances? What do they have to do to make that decision?
I mean, a couple of things are important. One is affordability. Like if
Yes,
you're thinking about price tags, if it's at all a concern, and for a few people it's not, you have to say, all right, what is this going to cost me? Not just in the first year. So if you're getting merit scholarships or leadership scholarships, you first need to make sure that you keep them every year and
yeah,
don't
right.
look at them as just an enticement. And then you have to sit back and think, all right, when I was looking at these institutions, am I feeling the same love for them in the same order that I was back then? And if not, it's time to plan visiting again. It's time to plan, and I'm going to do this even though people don't use phones like this anymore. But calling up the institution and asking the deep questions, not is housing guaranteed for first year, but what will my housing be all 4 years, and what's the cost?
Right.
What's the availability of things that I'm thinking about majoring in? A lot of those things, but it's talking to family and having honest conversations and saying, all right, now that I have this good news, now I have to make a decision. And it's not like going away to camp for 2 years and saying, you know, yes, I said camp for 2 years. It's a multi-year. You are living away potentially, maybe further than your family might want you to, but you have to go to a place that's going to make you thrive, which means you have to think about that.
Right. It's so important to invest that time because there's so much at stake, you know, affordability to distance to having the right fit, because that's going to be home for 4 years,
Yeah,
home
it's
away from
basically,
home.
do you love it more than you did on the open house day? And I will tell you all, the open houses are intentionally timed usually so that the weather is perfect. So if you're doing it, third week of October, sky is a perfect blue. The
Hmm.
leaves are beautiful.
Hmm.
And then we don't tell you the part about how the leaves are on the ground and it's dull and gray after that, because
Right.
that's also the time that all of us, and we're all guilty of it, take all the pictures for every publication. And then you say, my God, what a beautiful campus. Well, other than the very, very temperate climates, not so beautiful during finals week of the fall semester.
No. It's cold, it's windy, it might be snowing, you know, and you got the pressure of the finals and,
And it
you know
gets dark early.
it does. Yes, the time change, it gets dark early. Yes, I remember that when I went away to college. It's like, "Oh, boy, it's already dark, it's only 5:15, you know?"
Right.
So and I'm not at home, you know? Um, no, those are true statements, you know, there's no question about that. Um, and I emphasize fit, you know, and if you really wanna be at institution A, but institution B and C are more affordable, but it may not be the true fit. A lot of families are going to work on institution A to make sure that it is to the dollar, that it can be affordable. And that's stressful for them. You know, there's no question about that. But there, to me, there's something to be said about making sure that you are very comfortable on the campus and that after you have met with professors, current students who are giving tours, current students who are talking about their experiences and, you know, not just in the classroom or in the labs, but also the clubs that they belong to, you know, and asking the question, why Gettysburg, why Duquesne, why Point Park, why, you know, the University of Scranton. I'm just throwing out random institutions now, you know.
Or this one.
Indiana Hoosiers. Oh my gosh, we're gonna be talking about them too in a little bit. Yes, we
Yeah, but
will.
you mentioned fit, Phil, and that is so, so important because it's now not what has the coolest name, the coolest vibe, the best team, the whatever else. It is what do you love and what are you going to continue to love after graduation? That's it. That's not the one day, oh, this was exciting. It is what am I going to love during the doldrums time, during midterms, during big projects, and then after graduation 20 years later, still want to love
Yeah.
it.
You know, and hopefully the current students or the, you know, like the new freshmen, you know, whichever group on campus, when they see homecoming, you know, if you have a football stadium on campus and you're going to those Saturday afternoon games, you know, is this really who you are? You know, because the institution you're attending is kind of who you are. It's a main extension of oneself, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of miss that to a certain degree, you know. um, but yeah, I mean, I hope that, you know, families who are watching this and have children who are seniors, I have multiple in my neighborhood, you know, here in Moon Township, who have to make this decision, you know, by May 1.
Phil, I'm a mentor to some people who are seniors right now.
Yeah, let's talk
And
about that.
yeah, well, I try to tell them, look, you got to make this college conversation happen in one part of where you live and one day per week, not every day and not all day, because that puts undue stress on these teenagers who are already stressed enough.
Right,
And so it's more about saying, look, keep on top of your academics. Don't get senioritis or whatever people call it now. Make sure that the reason people accept you stays true through your graduation, because as you and I know, places have the right to revoke those acceptances and the money.
right.
So stay strong is all I tell people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's so important to not get into a rut just because you have 3 or 4 acceptances at good institutions, you know? Just keep firing on all cylinders. You're 100% right about
Amen.
that, Darryl. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now, what about, like, families who have a kid that's a junior in high school, perhaps even a sophomore? Now is the time to start thinking about college visitations. You know, and the Pittsburgh National College Fair, I don't know the date of it, but it's gonna be taking place very soon, and it's not just a free day off if you're being bussed down to the convention center and the David L. Lawrence Convention Center in downtown Pittsburgh, you know, so it's time to really start doing your research.
And also thinking about this, you're not going to know where you want to go exactly yet because you're a junior and lots of changes emotionally will take place
Sure.
between now and the next year. But I will tell you, Phil, it's about saying, let me start the process wide and narrow it down eventually and figure out where I might want to go. So we all know people who are about to gear up for the SAT or ACT as juniors, and they're about to attend college fairs, although you and I would caution them when we were working to say, don't just follow that clump of people who are going to the most popular schools. Think hard about where you might want to go based on what places offer realistically to you. And so, juniors, it's also probably the time that you're dialing in that senior schedule. Make sure it's challenging enough that people take you seriously.
Right. Absolutely. Take the AP courses if you're able to. Definitely continue with the honors courses,
Hmm.
so important. Stay active, keep being involved on campus or in your
Well,
community.
please, please don't join a bunch of new things because you think it'll impress people. It it doesn't. And actually, I get to talk about this in a couple of days. I'll be on a panel at Newark Academy in Livingston, New Jersey, with some
Mm,
people I've known forever. Melissa Falk, who's some sort of VP at University of Richmond, Matt Hyde, who is now at Trinity in Hartford,
mhm,
Danielle Savoglia, who you might know, who's now representing San Diego. So, it'll be a bunch of people like that. And we're talking to juniors and parents about everything they need to think about and every pitfall that potentially awaits them. So,
yep,
really looking
very
forward to
important.
seeing some former colleagues.
Good for you. That's great. That's wonderful. And that's another thing about our field with us, making these like developing these relationships because like you just said, you never know where that relationship is going to take you, as far as maybe being able to gain employment at another institution, to, sitting on certain boards, to, being able to present with colleagues who you know and trust from other
Mhm.
institutions. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling for us, in that sense, for
Well, and
sure.
as I think about all of these folks that are still working, my buddy Victor at WashU in St. Louis, I mean, they're in the thick of reading applications. So for them to take their time away from application review, which is really intense, to go talk to juniors says a lot about what they value still
Right.
as institutional leaders, and also what they feel is important about being educators, not just recruiters, marketers, people who are driving up the demand curve. So, all of these things that they're taking time to do makes it an honor to be with them. Because honestly, Phil, you and I know we don't need to wear suits anymore, and it's a good feeling. I love it.
It's a great feeling.
I love it.
The current president at Duquesne University, who actually is stepping down and retiring on July 1, half the time he's wearing a quarter zip with the Duquesne University logo, because sometimes you have to be comfortable when you have all of these tasks, all of these excuse me, all these responsibilities, all these commitments, and I'm sure he's got a couple suits that he can change into in his office if he has a dinner that he has to attend or a talk that he has to give to whichever group will be on campus or even off campus. So I mean, that's it's nice to have that luxury to dress down but still look professional.
Well, and Phil, I'm of two minds, and I can say this now. Sometimes you have to look like the price tag you're charging, so you
Right,
dress up. But
right.
honestly, I mean, let's think about investment bankers and everyone else. Everybody is sort of, business casual, whatever that
Mhm.
means. So I'm all for people saying, wear something comfortable, clean enough, but don't be pretentious about it. I mean, come on. You're
Exactly.
dealing with teenagers and parents who are taking their time
Right.
to deal with you.
Right. Right. Another thing that came to mind that has always been the big question that I was asked at a sit down with families, their sons or daughters a senior or whatever the case is, what is the return on investment? The
Yep, or
ROI.
ROI, as people say it, exactly, my friend. So, you know, college is great. College should be enjoyable. College
Mhm.
should be hard work. But after that, it's time to be financially independent if possible. So, what's going
Right.
to help you to do that? Either after undergrad or grad school or after a certification, time to roll. Your family has paid for you for a couple of decades plus. Now it's time to be on your own at some point.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And they may not feel it at that time, but guess what? Those 4 years go so fast. They really do,
Lightning.
and when you're seeing somebody that maybe, you're working at commencement and there's a student maybe you haven't seen since day 1, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, you're graduating already." It's like, "Wow, where'd that time go?" And
I know. And
immature.
for me, it's this, the last class that I was responsible for recruiting is going to graduate now.
Right.
So thank goodness I get to see a number of them, because they were also athletes that I was part of recruiting and part of my duties professionally. But
Right.
yeah, if you were to tell me that certain names are seniors, even though I know they're seniors, I'm looking at them and saying, there is just no way. There is no way.
And what's incredible, I mentioned it just a couple seconds ago, the maturity factor of just turning 18 to now turning 22, and they're ready to tackle the world,
Yeah,
and
they've
that's
gone from being teenagers who we love to really being young adults who are ready to launch. So that's why
right.
that ROI piece that you mentioned, Phil, so important because you want to be someone who's continuing to grow and ready to be independent in whatever way that means,
Mhm.
not someone who, oh my gosh, I went to college, it was great, but now I'm not ready to do anything on my own.
Right, right, exactly. No, I understand, and I get it. I get it, and you know what? We were there too.
Yep.
So, even though times might be different today, the employment climate is much different today than it was 30 plus years ago, you
Yeah.
know? Completely different. Newer technology to, you know, um, the threat of AI taking over certain positions and stuff like that, And, I always tell people, always make yourself marketable, even after graduation. Continue to get certifications. Go to those sessions that, you're gonna learn something new about your trade or about, your place of employment. And of course, for lawyers and doctors, they're being told, well, you have to do this in order to keep your license to practice medicine or to, practice law in Pennsylvania or whichever other states that they are licensed, through the bar exam. So, but
Well,
anyway,
and stay relevant, stay.
right, right.
This is a new phrase we can use. We can market it if we want, but in this age of downsizing, be non downsizable in your professionalism so that when the proverbial axe comes, you're not among those that are chopped. People need to understand that it's important, whether it's a formal education or not. Keep getting smarter, keep doing what you've done, my buddy. You keep getting certifications.
Yeah.
Tell You should tell the people about it.
I
And
went the yes, I went the artificial intelligence route. It was a bug that got in my head a couple years ago, and I didn't pay too much attention right away. But when I started reading more into it, and when I saw that Google offers these courses for certification in various, skill sets, let's just say, it doesn't matter if it's going to be, project management or any other area that you have to have these skill sets in order to not just keep your job, but to perform well at your job. I decided that I wanted to do some AI work. So I went after the certification at the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Business, or just called the Wharton School or just Wharton, um, for AI and business specialization. And it was 4 different courses that go into everything from marketing to HR to governance and all those important governance and ethics, I should say, and why all of these pieces are so important in artificial intelligence as a whole.
Yeah,
A
and
lot of that has changed since I received my certification,
well,
which
and
was
whether
just
or
a
not
year.
we like it, it's here to stay.
It's not
So
going
how are we
away.
going to use it wisely?
Right. And okay, you're going to use AI, but how are you going to use it? What do you want AI to do for you? So I went after the prompt engineering part of it through Vanderbilt University. And I learned so much about what I can get from AI as far as, the the machine learning that is built into AI, large language models that are built into AI. And yes, it is getting better. It was clunky at first when it was made available, but all these outfits are very very much in competition with each other. OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Grok. It doesn't matter. And there's so many more that are coming at us right now, and
My
they are
gosh.
going to market themselves as saying, "I can get you the information you need just like that, and it's going to be accurate." But is it going to be
That's the
accurate?
key. Accuracy. I sort of do it by saying, all right, I know the cars that we drive in this household. I know my musical equipment inside out.
Right.
See what AI says about what I have that I know like the back and front of my hand. And 4 years ago, I would have said, that's good, but way off. Now it is, how in the world did AI come up with that intricacy that only people with a certain level of knowledge even have? So it is getting better, but I don't have to worry about being downsized, and you know why.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll say one more thing about AI. And we were talking about students who are graduating from college or who are juniors in college that are looking to go to a PhD program or maybe medical school or whatever the case is. But especially for PhD programs, AI is built to help and to assist when it comes to taking the GRE and the GMAT. And you'll get these sample questions, that will help in trying to get that 160 score, or whatever score you need, minimum score you need, as part of your acceptance packet, for your graduate assistantship or whatever the case is, and we didn't have those things, And in fact, when I taught career development seminar at Duquesne University, Daryl, I used to tell the students all the time that they had the luxury of having Microsoft Word, you know, and they had the luxury of being able to tailor their resume based on the templates that Microsoft Word offers. They didn't have to go to a a place like Kinko's to buy certain types of parchment paper to print their resumes. I probably use a typewriter or a word processor. Now it does everything for you. But don't let AI do that work for you. It has to come from here. It
Right,
has
because
to
if
come
you're
from here.
interviewed and people ask you questions about what you put down, well, if you suddenly don't know it because AI did all the work, sayonara.
Bye-bye. No question about that. Even your cover letter, they're going to pull snippets out of the cover letter and say, "Tell me more about," or it can lead to actual interview questions of, "How do you handle a situation when X happens and you need Y for the solution?" And that if that's in the cover letter and you don't know what the cover letter says, you're done.
Thinking matters.
Yes, it
Critical
does.
thinking matters.
Critical thinking. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned, Daryl, you mentioned music, and I see a keyboard sitting behind you. And I know that you have multiple keyboards in your studio here. Let's
Hmm.
talk about the music in you.
So right behind me, and this is not a paid advertisement, but it's something called the Roland Great Synth Company Juno DS, which allows you to basically do everything a modern production station would do. You connect it to my another. Sorry about dropping all these brands, Phil. Hope you don't get in trouble, but connect it to a MacBook Pro and you're ready to roll. But over here, I have some modules that are early 90s that are still in perfect condition that I still use because I believe in using actual hardware, not everything needs to be on a laptop. So weekly, I get to play with a bunch of professional musicians in a nearby suburb, Potomac, Maryland,
Mhm,
usually getting one of them ready for whatever professional paid gig they're going to be doing. So that's a blast. I did lead an 11-piece band, sometimes 13-piece band when I lived
wow,
in Pennsylvania.
wow,
People are still talking about him. The group was called What Breaks Loose, which was a name that was devised by one of our members. And now I'm working with some projects with a dear friend, Paul Caccarini. And what we are doing is making our own arrangements, original compositions, and whether it's percussion or keyboard or trombone, or he even has a couple of different saxophones part here. um, we're letting people know that composition and performance can both happen and you can still enjoy them because it's not just about making money for us, thank God. It's
mhm.
about saying what's fun and what
Yes,
will help multiple generations enjoy what we're doing, not just a certain subset.
right. And you are involved in various genres of music too, if you wanna talk about the genres that interest you.
Yeah, jazz, funk, soul, rock, you name it, we're doing it. And while we're talking music, hold on a second.
Yes.
Bob Weir, rest in peace. My favorite Dead show ever was one at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., near where I live now. Among the guest musicians were Bruce Hornsby,
Mm,
Sting, Branford Marsalis. So they were all on stage with the Grateful Dead. And of course, people looked at me like, what are you doing here? You don't look like a deadhead. But my attitude was, it's about musicianship. So
yes.
I enjoy nearly every genre. And you'll find, the DC style of music, go go, which is highly percussive in my car that I play. And you'll also hear probably one of my favorite rock songs to play loud ever. Tom Sawyer by Rush is still
Yes, I do
genius.
the same thing.
Yeah, release it today, it would still be a hit. Guaranteed.
Daryl, are you accused of losing your hearing by chance?
I'm not because at least during live performances, thank goodness, I always used a set of earplugs. Now they're, of course, a little more high tech in which they reduce the overall volume in every frequency range without giving you basically deafness in a certain range. But yeah, I'm doing okay.
Okay,
Thank
good.
goodness. But it
I'm
was
just talking
because I
about when
learned
you're
early
in your
on to
car when you're in
gotta
your car and
protect.
you're driving to it doesn't matter if it's a grocery store or, a commitment that you have or whatever, and you decide you wanna listen to Tom Sawyer. I'm not having that at 3 on the volume sector. I have that cranked up, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm doing my
Yeah.
best air drum in the middle of the song because I have to have my hands on 10 and 2, but oh my goodness gracious. You just struck an immediate chord, a positive chord right there by saying Tom Sawyer. That's one of my all-time favorite songs, and Rush is
And,
one of my all-time favorite bands,
and
you
I
know?
had people on my freshman or sophomore floor at Penn State. So we had a band called Maintenance, and I don't know how they came up with that name, but they could play almost perfectly Tom Sawyer, the instrumental part. Nobody could do the vocals really, but
That's
there
hard
was
to
a
nail down.
drummer who could do it perfectly, a bassist, a guitarist, and they were all such great musicians, and they nailed it. I mean, they
That's
were
fantastic.
phenomenal.
Those aren't easy pieces. It's a given that the drumming is not an easy part to try to master because Neil Peart is my favorite drummer of all time. God rest his soul as well. But anyone who's familiar with this band and anyone who's familiar with Neil Peart will just think about his drum kit and how many pieces he has to it.
But
The
he could
I
play it.
mean, everything. It's amazing,
Yeah,
and he
we
used it
you and
all.
I both have seen people with the giant kits, but he played it like a percussionist. A drummer just mashes things, but he had touch, speed, musicality, volume differences. I mean, that guy was pretty amazing, and again, I live in an area that the native style of music, go-go, is populated by all sorts of great percussionists.
Mhm.
But he could play any genre, I guarantee it, and he'd
Yeah,
be relevant today were he still alive.
right. Exactly. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Bob Weir. My sister-in-law, Amy, worked for a company called Metropolitan Entertainment based out of Montclair, New Jersey,
Mhm.
and it was also known as John Shear Productions, okay? So, they were concert promoters before the days of iHeart festivals, Clear Channel, and Ticketmaster and all of them taking over this field, but she was also a tour manager for the Grateful Dead, and I had
Wow.
been to multiple shows backstage. Now, the rule of thumb was don't mingle with the band, don't go near the band, but there were a few occasions that Bob Weir would nod and say hi, whereas you
That's
didn't
cool.
see Jerry Garcia, and if you did, he was walking by and you stayed away from him, you know, and I didn't know he was sick. I had no idea because he had just been recently performing, you
Mhm.
know? And yeah, Dead and Company, you had his other projects that he was doing, and, he was very active on Facebook. He was showcasing his workouts. He was showcasing anything he was involved in, and that came as a shock for me. It
Well, and
really did.
again, he's done a lot for music, and if you
Yes.
think about just that name the names of the people I mentioned, I mean, Branford Marsalis,
Yeah.
one of the best saxophonists to ever live,
Yeah.
played with him, and Sting, whether or not people like him doesn't matter. Great composer,
Yeah.
great musician. Bruce
Right.
Hornsby, whose fingers could fly across a piano.
Yeah.
Again, they were on stage in the same show.
That must have been
So
amazing.
there's a song called Bird Song that features Branford Marsalis, in fact, live version. Still one of my favorites because you could put it on a rock station if you want.
Mhm.
You can put it on a jazz station if you want. It's a beautiful, beautiful music. So I will never be a prison to one type of music like
You
you.
can't. You
We
can't.
both
No one
like a
can.
little bit of everything.
I fully agree. I'll admit that the one genre that I don't go after is country music just because we didn't listen to it in my household growing up. But if
Same
I'm at a
here.
bar and somebody's playing country music, it's like, yeah, that sounds good. I like that. I've seen, smaller country bands play in Pittsburgh, and it's good music. It's great music. I have nothing against it. It's just that it's a genre that I don't go after personally, but it's
Well,
great.
and it has changed so much, and I'm the same
Yeah.
as you. Didn't grow up listening to it at all, but if you listen to it now, it is borrowed from hip hop, it is
Yeah.
borrowed from funk, it is borrowed from, the 90s alternative rock. So even the rhythms that a lot of them are using now, and even some of the lyrics, I mean, if you took away the musicality and you
Mhm.
just listened, even the lyrical rhythms are hip hop based. So, you know, country is modernized, but it's still not my go to. I have nothing against those who do. It's
Same.
just not something I buy nor play in my household.
Yeah, on my playlist I have on Spotify, I do have every genre represented, classical, heavy metal, funk, R&B, 80s alternative, 70s classic rock, you name it, 60s, 50s, I have it all. I really do, and I love it all.
Phil,
I
you
can go
mentioned
from
Spotify. I still have a car that has a CD player, my man.
ooh,
Mhm.
I love it. I
Probably
had the
the
5
last year that they were in cars, but I
right,
I even though I have the USB port so I can do my mixed thumb drives and you can do Android integration and all those things,
yeah,
sometimes you just need to listen to a CD front to back,
I
and
agree.
it transports me.
Right, right, it really does, I had a 5 disc, CD changer in the trunk of my Volkswagen Jetta that I got in 2000.
Bill,
Yeah,
I'm a VW driver, man.
nice, nice.
You and I
I
share
love that
2
Jetta.
mi I mean, yeah, I have so the last here's more product placement, but the Volkswagen Passat SEL Premium from
Okay,
2018, A, is a that's it's a driver's car, but
yeah.
B, it has a Fender premium audio system and a CD player, and so, those trips to the grocery store just happened on Saturday. In fact, Tom Sawyer happened to come on one of the Sirius channels, and people a couple of spots away, I'm pretty sure, could hear the volume, but I turned it back down after that.
The only time I turn it down is when I'm pulling into the neighborhood.
That's a
When I'm
wise
almo when
thing.
I'm almost home at my driveway.
Yeah.
It's hysterical. Um, you're involved in so many other things, Daryl. You're a mentor. You're a mentor at your church. You are coaching track and field. You're announcing track and field competitions at the University of Maryland, you know, and there's multiple other things that I know I'm missing. Um, why are these things so important to you?
One is because they were always the things that when I was working, I wanted to do more of. So even when I started coaching track and field in Gettysburg in 1985, which is when I started working there. I
Mhm.
did it as a volunteer because it was a part of me and it gave me so much with teammates I still am in touch with regularly from my days on the Penn State track team.
Yeah.
I learned so much with such great coaching that literally, even though I don't like this phrase, paying it forward is what I had to do. And then there was a person on the women's team at Penn State who's a dear friend of mine who was doing some of the announcing at University of Maryland. It's only 6 miles from here, so she got me to do it, learn the software program and all those things. So co-announcing for that is great. And then because it's University of Maryland, I'm also on the board of directors of it's basically a campus Lutheran organization, but it touches on a lot of other religions. Young people have always been a part of how I thrive. That's part of my
Right.
family
Right.
upbringing. And then the rest is, my gosh, Phil, I have time. I have time. So whether it's doing uh, there's a famous and beautifully historical gatehouse in Gettysburg, Evergreen Gatehouse and Cemetery, famous place that's been around for hundreds of years, or Student Leadership Network in New York City that graduates 4,000 plus people per year. I mean, these
Mm,
are all things I just love doing.
that's
So
great. It really
doing
is
them without
fantastic.
having to punch a clock, so to speak, w- I wouldn't trade it. Would not trade it.
Good for you. I think that's fantastic. I really do. And you have to, that's part of living your life, is all these involvements and activities and the people that you're working with, and it's the people that make it go, and to be surrounded with good people. There's a lot to be said about that and how you're spending your time wisely, you know.
Well, and I'll give this as an example. People think I'm crazy because even today I'm going to do a 150-mile plus round trip to go coach at Gettysburg College and then come back again as a
Mhm.
volunteer. But listen to the coaches. I was Division 1 a billion years ago. The head coach is a young man named Bryson Hartzler. He was a 7 foot plus high jumper at Penn State. The
Mm.
main sprints coach who I assist is a Gettysburg grad who was an All American in football and track and field, Kirby Scott. There's a throws coach who's amazing. The pole vault coach has the two top seeds in the entire conference right now. The throws coach was again an excellent, excellent thrower in college who obviously was nationally ranked. So when you think about everybody, the distance coach, I mean, even having that many coaches at a Division 3 program is amazing.
Yes,
Having
it
this
is.
many volunteers is also amazing. But it's again, we all love it and we all love teaching. So for me, it's not an effort. Plus, you know, as a VW driver with that Fender premium sound, the miles go by pretty quickly, my
Yeah, they
friend.
do. I agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. Excuse me. I know that you're doing a lot of work with, I think this is at the Lutheran Church, I can't remember. You're
Yes.
doing work with students who are from different countries in Africa and different countries, throughout the planet. And we had a great conversation about Tanzania when
Mhm.
we talked, because I had been there and, I was there when I worked at Duquesne University. We were setting up a summer study abroad program, a 4-week, we call them Maymesters, because you basically leave the day after graduation to go to the destination where you're studying, where the students are studying, and how much of an impact that country had on me, and how great the people are, and working with limited resources, um what are these people, these younger students that you're working with, what do they bring to the table? I know they bring a lot, but can you talk a lot about, what they truly bring to the table as these teens who are looking to, live a good life and to be educated, those types of things?
Well, and most of them are first generation in the United States, so their parents emigrated from Tanzania, but we also have a native German speaker, people from Central America, etc. But here is what I know value-wise. These parents care so deeply about the success of their own children
Right.
that they support them to the nth degree. They teach them also some great adult values. I mean, every person I talk to, Phil, every week, they look me in the eye, they smile.
Mhm.
Even though I see them every week and I say, please just call me Darryl. There are a couple that in in every instance they say either Mr. Darrell or Mr. Jones or just Mr. But it's their values, their kindness, their thoughtfulness, their idea of taking advantage of an opportunity. There are people in our conversation that we're having now. One of them has a PhD. A bunch of them are going on to great careers in finance. These are the parents,
Yeah,
people
right.
with advanced degrees, nurses, etc. So what they're doing is instilling their educational value and values into these young folks. And side note that has nothing to do with education, every single one of their parents can cook like nobody's business. You want to talk we can talk about it, Phil, but when you have Tanzanian food, no need for salt and pepper shaker. It's
No,
already excellent.
it's
Oh my
so good.
gosh.
It's so good. We ate so well over there. I mean, I wanna go back. It's not just for the food. The culture is amazing. What Tanzania has to offer as far as the history to the wildlife, and of course, it's the people. Um, I would hope that if anyone who is curious about the world. And, I think a lot of people have a tendency to go to Europe. It might be like a comfort thing. I don't know. the cultural interests I know are very high up there, but look at Tanzania, look at Kenya, go on the western side of the continent, look at Ghana, look at the Ivory Coast, look at Senegal, because they have so much there, and they love people. They don't look at us and say, "What are you doing here?" They embrace us, you know, and they were more than happy to share their cultures, their values, their mores. Yeah, it's such an important thing to get out there and see the world, number one. But when you meet these people and you see what drives them on a daily basis, it's a learning experience. And for me, it just gave me this new appreciation about people and
Well,
how
and
they
for
live.
me, oh my gosh, Phil. So, of the 2 choirs I sing in, one is a traditional Lutheran choir, but the other, it's called a global choir, but it's really a Tanzanian choir. The
Okay.
natural harmonies that these folks sing, I'm telling you, if you're not touched by it, you have no soul, really.
Oh, man.
They're amazing,
Mhm.
amazing.
That's incredible. That is just fantastic. Again, I could talk about this all day, and I could talk about, all the different experiences we had, but as a whole, to sum it up, just go, learn, live, embrace. And it does it's good for the soul. Like you said, it's so good for the soul, you know. And I felt that when I was in Central America. I felt that when I was in Belize too, you know. Um
Mhm.
Not that I didn't feel it, the couple of times I've been to Europe, because I love Europe, I love going there, but, there's just something about the people in these countries, that it's unspeakable. It's too hard to describe. I'm not gonna lie. You just have to experience it. See it for
Yeah, and
yourself.
that's what it means, safety being an important aspect, but if you can be a citizen of the world, even if it's going to enclaves in different cities in the United States, in which you'd be the only English speaker, do it. Immerse
Right,
yourself, learn something. You
right.
know, cities like Toronto, if you don't want to go overseas, there's every
Toronto has
culture
everything.
represented. So spend the time, go
Right.
to a Jamaican enclave, a Tanzanian enclave,
Yeah.
an Ecuadorian. I mean, again, selfishly, the food is going to be great, but it's also the warmth of the people. You cannot trade that.
I totally agree. We have one more topic, Daryl, before we wrap it up.
All
You're
right.
wearing this Indiana Hoosiers hat and you got the shirt. How blown away are you by their success thus far with the football program?
Well,
And
first, well, go ahead, Phil.
and how quickly Kirk Signetti has turned this program around.
Well, first, Kurt Signetti, good Western PA guy.
Pittsburgh guy.
Yeah, came with Western PA values. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
for me, I mean, think about it. You're talking about the losingest, losingest program in major college history suddenly owning the world and not being arrogant about it. I'm amazed at them. So I'm not true bandwagon. I'm married into it, married
Mhm.
into IU, but I got to represent them.
Sure.
And honestly, it's the hardworking values, the lack of that whole, hundreds of 4 and 5 star players. They're just getting it done and getting it done honestly. And for any program to have that kind of complete turnaround, first is amazing. Second, I don't know if there's any pleasing Kurt Signetti. I did see him smile twice on TV, but having family members who can finally be enthusiastic about more than just the basketball team is pretty cool. And
Right.
IU also has good soccer and amazing music, but it's really about just the class with which these folks do it. I was a little disappointed when Diego Pavia had bad things to say about the Heisman voters
Yes.
and continued to insert himself, not a lot of Not a lot of class there.
He hurt himself by doing that, because he'll be interviewing with these NFL teams when if he goes to the combine, and even if he, no matter what he does with that particular decision, if he wants to be drafted, in the top 10 or top 15 or whatever, he's gonna have to answer to that.
Well, yeah, and on the other hand, you got Mendoza, who,
Ugh.
might appear to be too nice, but if you watched the most recent game, he is throwing lasers, tight spirals at a velocity that when you look at him, you think he's not the guy who did that. So, finally we have a Heisman guy who's actually nice, who cares about his parents, who's a kind person, who really does believe in elevating his teammates and not just him. You can't help but to love the guy. And this is, again, I've been a fan of Penn State football forever and still am, because once you're an athlete at a place like that, you support every team. But
Absolutely.
IU has been amazing. I love him.
It's a great story, and when you mentioned Fernando Mendoza, nobody knew who he was unless you were following University of California football, because that's where he transferred from,
Yeah.
and and to see what he did in one season, and to see what his brother may do, and hopefully be able to replicate, you know, um, there's a lot to be said about him, and it's not just what you see on the field, with his quality of play, high quality of play. He's going to be successful in the NFL. I don't care which team drafts him. He's going to be successful in the NFL because of the talent, but also because of his attitude, his mindset, how he approaches the game, how he treats his teammates, how he treats people in general. And that was all embedded at home because both of his parents have their parents are of Cuban descent, and they have those true values built into them that gets them through each day, and how
Well,
classy they are. They're very classy people.
yeah. And this guy has old school values. And we're going to talk about old school values because don't think I missed out on the old school Red Sox cap, my friend. But think about this. If we could have another podcast about this whole NIL thing because it is driving me crazy. One of the kids for whom I'm a mentor talked about a, a schoolmate of his who is committed to University of Maryland for basketball.
Mhm.
Because he could, he bought a $6,000 pair of jeans for whatever
Oh,
that's worth. But
right,
he's making, even though he hasn't gone this crazy because his parents are keeping on top of it, he's a millionaire now. He's
right,
18. He has an
right.
agent representing him. But my point is, Mr. Mendoza is worth whatever he's getting because he's class and representing it well. And I know this is off topic, but come on. Old school Boston Red Sox cap. Talk to me, man.
I don't remember Carlton Fisk's home run. I was 5.
Okay.
And that was what game 6, but they did lose the World Series to the Cincinnati Reds. I kinda grew up liking the Reds even though I'm a diehard Pirates fan, but that was the Pirates' nemesis, okay? Them and the Phillies, and I have a lot of respect for the Phillies too, of course, but, I loved Pete Rose as a player. I loved Johnny Bench as a player, Dave Concepcion, Ken Griffey, okay? Joe Morgan. I can go on and on and on about that entire lineup, about, uh, how great of a team the Reds were. But I also admired the Red Sox of the '70s because we talked about this before. Carl Yastrzemski, um, Jim Rice, Fred Lynn, Carlton Fisk. Those are the first players that come to mind. Darrell Evans, those are the first players that come to mind. And I'm a uniform guy too. I'm a hat guy, So even though the '70s were funky for fashion and kind of funky with the uniforms too, I mean, my hometown team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, they went from mustard gold. I had the hat over here somewhere.
Yep.
The Clemente hat, I call it, um, to the mix and match of the All Blacks with the yellow pillbox hat. the all gold with the black pillbox hat and the pinstripe uniforms. In 1977, they'd wear the pinstripe jersey with the black pants or with the gold pants, or they would wear the black or the gold with the pinstripe pants. And I love that. I was 7, I was collecting baseball cards. I was into baseball. I could tell you who the players were, and I would actually look to see what they were wearing if the game was on TV, and I would have the black shirt and the gold, sweatpants. I did it all.
Speaking of games, doing anything this evening, Phil?
I'm still under the weather. I got hit with the flu bug, Saturday night, and I don't know that I will go to the game tonight. I already told my friend Jim that I told him last night that I'm sick and I'm still not just feeling the best. Um, that I might have to just sit this one out and stay home.
Well,
And
that's all right. The
yes,
bathrooms will be better at home. The weather will be better at home. The fridge is
yes.
fully stocked.
And it's not that I don't want to be there. And it's gonna be like 30 degrees. And when you're still a little bit sick and you're might be on the winning end of this bug that I have, I'll probably come home sick again. I'll be sick the rest of the week, and I don't wanna be feeling sick the rest of the week.
Well, I will just say this, Phil. So, about these white hairs in our beard, I've
Right.
always called them wisdom whiskers. So, you are
Ah,
actually representing that. And you
yes.
mentioned Pittsburgh. My best friend from college and teammate, Rob Bulware, was the director of PR first for the San Diego Chargers and then for a long time for the Steelers. So, of course, me being a native Pennsylvanian, now a Maryland person, but I still love the Steelers. My sister Shelly, big Steelers fan, even though her husband is a Ravens fan, but love the Steelers. My best friend growing up, Brian Kennel, big Pittsburgh Pirates fan. So it's again about those old school values, hard workers. They didn't need load management. They just played every game. So I know we're wrapping up, but I guess to sum up who I am, I admire those old school values, the hard work, the passion, and the willingness to make whatever it is bigger than you are. And
Yes.
Steelers have always been that.
That's what they represent. They represent the true blue collar work ethic, hard work, getting the job done, getting it right, getting the job done right, no matter how hard it was physically on them to be working those lids, to be working in all the other aspects of the mills. And Darryl, every time the Steelers play, I wear my Mean Joe Green jersey. I have the bicentennial patch from Super Bowl 10. I have that jersey. It's authentic. And
That
and I wear it
another
every
product
single.
placement, but his Coke commercial is still the best one ever. And I have a former colleague who's a dear friend. She's one of the directors of admission at Gettysburg College. Shout out to Sarah Kotlinski because I know she's going to be watching if she can.
Yes,
Again, knowing that it's the peak of application review, but she's major Steelers fan.
that's wonderful. I have friends who live in other countries that come to Pittsburgh once a year to go to a game. There's 3 people I'm going to give a shout out to. My very good friend, Ian Ahmed, who lives in North London. He's a massive Arsenal fan. That's the downfall to him.
Yeah,
I can talk Premier League soccer all day too. La Liga, Bundesliga, I can go there. And his good mates who just got married back in September, Matt and Natalie, um, they are such wonderful people. And by the way, they're Tottenham supporters, so you can't put them in the same room during the North London derby. It's just not a good idea. Those 2 teams, they're next to each other and they hate each other.
they are rivals for real
Yes,
rivals.
they are. They're Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Everton, you know. But that's all banter though. It's all fun. But I became very close friends with them, and their knowledge of football, they can easily match up with that Yinzer who's been going to games for 25, 30 years. Their knowledge
Yinzer,
base
still
of
love it.
Steelers. their knowledge base of the game. Sometimes we text each other through WhatsApp or through Messenger during the game or after game. I get their thoughts, and they're dishing out very intelligent information based on their observations. And Daryl, what's cool about this is they're 5 hours ahead of us, and I
Yeah,
guarantee you they will be up in the middle of the night watching this game this evening.
they're real fans.
They are. They are, and they fit in here in Pittsburgh like anyone else. And they're just the coolest people too, and with the best accents. With the best accents.
Yes,
Okay, so
indeed.
we do have to talk predictions since you mentioned the Steelers. I'm glad that you did. What will be the outcome tonight, Daryl?
Oh, Phil, this is hard because you want to get the right Steelers team to show up.
Right?
Hopefully, that'll be the one this evening.
Right?
But I think it's going to be tight. People talk about underdogs and favored teams, but it's the playoffs. So no one, at least in the pros, is just going to roll over and give it to the other team. I'm
Right.
hoping, this is not a prediction because I could be wrong, but Steelers are going to win by a scant 2 points. What do you think?
I think the Steelers are going to win by 3 to 5 points.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. And they are going to show up with their A game. I've been very impressed with how the offensive line has progressed.
They're better.
They're much better. They started off shaky. They weren't that good last year, but they're playing very, very well. And the penalties are at a minimum. Okay. Aaron Rodgers is dialed in. He is a happy quarterback again,
Yep.
and even though he's 42, I think in his mind he's 25, and he's like having an assistant coach out there or like an offensive coordinator out there. He knows what he's reading. He knows the schemes. He knows the matchups, and he can basically say, "Hey, DK, you're getting this ball. Hey, Calvin, you're getting this ball. Kenneth, you're going to run this route. You're getting this ball." And speaking of Kenneth Gainwell, you're looking at, a very good tandem in running backs with Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, and I didn't know much about Kenneth Gainwell until he started playing here. And there's a reason why he's the team MVP, you know, because he's become their wide receiver too. He was their wide receiver one the last 2 games of the season because of DK's suspension. But and the defense is still a little bit shaky,
Yep.
but I don't have an issue with how they're gonna play tonight. I think I think Jalen Ramsey's gonna make up for the mistakes he made in the last game against the Ravens. Um, I see, James Pierre and JPJ playing lockdown, shutdown corner. Um, I don't know about sacks. I don't know if TJ is gonna get 1 or 2, but I'm telling you right now, Alex Highsmith has been on fire. He has
Yeah.
been
And
on fire.
yeah. So
Nobody's talking about him. Nobody in the national media is talking about him. No
let's
one.
just hope they do well. I don't really follow pros until the playoffs. I keep
Mhm.
track of what my family's favorite teams are doing,
Right.
but it's go time. And, Pittsburgh is always going to represent in the playoffs. So
Yes.
just hoping they do well for my sister Shelley's sake, especially because she loves to gloat to her husband anytime the Steelers win.
That is so true. But there's something that 2, 3 important things that have to be said here about tonight's game. TJ's playing against his brother's former team, okay? So you've got that brotherhood competition. You got 2 streaks at hand. The Texans have won 9 consecutive games. That streak is about to end this evening, okay? They don't last forever, but the one streak that will continue is the fact that the Steelers have not lost on Monday night since 1991, and that trend will continue.
Let us hope
Let's hope.
for, for all
Let's
the
hope.
people lining up, for all the people going, just enjoy the experience.
I have one more thing to say, then I know you have to run off here. Um when I was in Tanzania, before the trip, when I was packing, I bought a Steelers flag. Not a terrible towel, but it's an actual Steelers flag. And I knew that I was gonna give it to somebody who I got to know and who I thought should have this flag. And I was thinking it might be one of the Spiritan priests because we stayed at the Spiritan guest house. The Spiritans are the group of priests in the Catholic Church that basically run Duquesne University.
Mhm.
Well, the night that we touched down at Kilimanjaro Airport, we were picked up by this gentleman named Fahad. He was our driver, and we were in this big white van. He loaded all of our stuff up for us and everything. I happened to be sitting in the front seat, and he and I hit it off right away. The first question I asked him was, "Who's the soccer team you support?" And he said, "Manchester United." And I said, "Oh, I'm a Liverpool guy." You know, but we had some quick banter, but we hit it off right away. But not only was he our driver from the airport to the Spiritan Guest House in Arusha, he was our driver the entire week and a half, which also included him taking us on safari because he has a master's degree in ecology. He knew everything about the animals. He knew everything about the birds. He knew everything about the plant life. Okay. And again, we got along so well. I felt like I haven't seen a close friend in 20 years, is how I describe this relationship that we developed, Fahad and I. Um, he's the one that got the flag. And I will
That's
put that
awesome.
picture on this episode. Love the guy. I haven't
That's
seen or heard
fantastic.
from him. Well, no, obviously, I haven't seen him, but I haven't heard from him. I never got his contact information. So I'm trying to find a way to track this guy down, and I hope that he has that Steelers flag. He said he does follow the Steelers because they do follow NFL football there, you know, and I hope that he has that flag hung up somewhere in his house or outside. And I hope that
Well,
he knows that the Steelers are in the playoffs tonight.
let's close a loop, tech guy. I'm
Yes.
sure if anybody can find him, you could because
Oh,
you've
I'm
got the
going to find him.
certificates and the know-how. It'll happen.
I'm going to find him, and I don't think I've ever gelled with such a person that quickly in almost all my life, to be honest with you. He was the best. He's of Muslim faith, and he brought so much to all of us in our group. It wasn't just me. He got along with everybody. He's just the most likable guy, and I hope that when I find him, that I can actually have him on this podcast.
That would be cool. I'll be certain to tune in for that.
Please, because
Absolutely.
he's just the best. He's one of the best human beings I've ever met in my entire life. So, okay, Darryl, we're gonna do this again. We
All
have so
right.
much to talk about. The topics are endless. The conversations are endless. And I really appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, but I truly appreciate your time. And for anyone who is watching this episode, we're at the very end. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Phil's Place page, but the name of the podcast is Phil's Place. I also have this on Spotify, and I put reels on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Well,
So,
Phil, thanks so much for having me, and
Daryl,
I
thank
hope you
you.
feel better soon, my man.
Yeah, I'm working hard at trying. Excuse me, that I didn't shut off my phone. I thought I shut off my computer sound, but that sound gets erased anyway. Um, I have to find a way to get better if I'm hoping to go to this game tonight, but I'll make that decision by 3 o'clock this
Yeah,
afternoon. So,
you'll make the
Daryl,
right
we will
one.
be in touch. Thank you. Have a blessed week. Have a great week, and I hope to talk to you soon.
You as well. Take care, Phil.
You too. Thanks, Daryl. Bye bye.
Thank you.